Hello, lords and ladies. Today we're going to talk about Hitler's persecution of German Jews and what he does, what his programs are to deal with what he calls the Jewish problem. We are going to have to talk about things that to us do not seem logical, but they are history and they are what happened. So let's take a look. Today's objectives. We're going to analyze the impact of the Nuremberg laws on German Jews and what they do in response to these laws. We're going to look at a term that we did talk about briefly, but I want to make sure that you write down and understand. It's the term pogrom. We're also going to then discuss and evaluate the event called Kristallnacht and its effects on the situation in Germany and how it's going to change and alter what Hitler has planned in his country. So these are the things that we are going to look at. If you need more time to write, you're going to want to pause it soon because we are going to move on. But just make sure that by the time we're done going through this, that you are okay with the ideas and understand what the Nuremberg laws mean, what a pogrom is, and why Kristallnacht is going to change Hitler's plan. So the first thing we're going to start with, so you pause it now if you need, the first thing we're going to start with are the Nuremberg laws. Hitler's going to persecute German Jews. His initial stages of his plan, now remember he comes to power in 1933, one of the first things that he does is he purges his own party. It's called the Night of the Long Knives, and you see a tremendous amount of his former supporters and colleagues killed in that evening. Then in 1935, he turns his attention towards, so now he's kind of uncontested and the leader, he turns his attention towards the Jews and what he wants to do with them. So he forms these laws called the Nuremberg laws in 1935. And essentially they take away the rights of Germany's Jewish people. You can no longer, if you're Jewish, you're no longer a citizen of the Reich. You are no longer allowed to have government positions if you had them. Here you have a picture of Hitler announcing the Nuremberg laws to the press corps. So it's essentially a press conference for him about the Nuremberg laws. That being said, you're going to see that here you see Jude, right? Juden, this is what the German word for Jews are, and this is kind of determining for them what they can and cannot do. Propaganda put out by him. This is a picture from the New York Times in the United States and how it was reported here. Anti-Jewish laws passed. Text of decree on status Nazi swastika flag. So you can see in that headline that the idea of Hitler having the swastika on his flag seemed more compelling to American journalists than the idea that he passed all these anti-Jewish laws. So you can see from that that most countries in the world were not really picking up as much on the violation of the Jewish rights that we see there. It further continues. So from 35 to 38, he has these laws in place. And a lot of frustrating events occur in Germany where you see Jewish people being persecuted. A young Jewish man who saw his parents killed by the German Nazis and detained and put into places where they shouldn't have been. He kills a German diplomat in Paris in November of 1938. And unfortunately for him, Hitler's going to use that as an excuse to attack the Jewish population. So what you're going to see happen. Now that happened again in November of 1938, very early in the month. Hitler's going to respond with Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht translates to Night of Broken Glass. This is the only Nazi pogrom. A pogrom is a public attack on Jews. This is where they're literally the victims of violence and looting, okay? And it takes place over 2 nights, 11/9 and 11/10 of 1938. The Nazis lead all kinds of mobs that just run through Jewish neighborhoods and start attacking the Jewish communities. They call it the Night of Broken Glass because so many Jewish-owned shops were destroyed. The windows were broken out, the shards of glass lay in the streets, and were all heard breaking throughout the night. They went into the shops, took whatever they wanted. They went into your home and took whatever they wanted. Took your jewelry, took your money, took any kind of possessions that they wanted out of your home. They went first to the synagogues where they burned them. Something like 1,100 synagogues were burned in the Night of Broken Glass in Kristallnacht. They burned homes. They dragged Jewish people out of their homes in the middle of the night and during the day even, and into the middle of the street where they were beaten and then robbed. So you see absolute and utter chaos in the streets of Germany, all in the name of attacking and righting this wrong that Hitler had perceived. And he gets support from it from some of his public because, again, in Europe at this time, and indeed in much of the world at this time, anti-Semitism is not a radical idea. It's something that a lot of people believe to be true. They felt that the Jewish people were somehow, different and were worthy of persecution. And so Kristallnacht in Europe, not a whole lot of Germans are going to protest this. Other countries attack and kind of say, what are you doing there? You can't do this to your people. Here's a picture from Kristallnacht. Okay, you see again, here's the broken glass in the windows. The department stores are destroyed. Here's a department store that was popular there, a Jewish department store where they had broken down all of the mannequins. You see the propaganda there with the eyes kind of watching over the neighborhood, people fleeing for their lives, running away from the attacking Nazis. Walking by storefronts the next day, completely burned out and broken. These sort of signs began appearing all around Germany. It means attention, Jews. This graffiti here means Jews are bloodsuckers. Okay? So you're seeing that the general tone and character of what's happening in Germany is that people are looking at the Jews as their enemy. And Hitler, even though he does take public criticism from the United States, from other countries, even within Europe, and saying you cannot treat your people this way, it makes him shift his policy because you see, here's the cover of the New York Times. Nazis smash, loot, burn Jewish shops and temples until Goebbels calls a halt. All Vienna's synagogues are attacked. Fires and bombs wreck 18 of 21. Now, this is spreading. Vienna is in what country? It's Austria. It's Hitler's home country. Okay? So what you should see is that Jews are beaten, it says underneath. Furniture and goods flung from homes and shops. 15,000 were jailed during the day. 20 are suicides. When you're looking at what is happening in Germany, the world has some backlash. And so Hitler says, well, wait a minute, I maybe can't do this as publicly as I would like. And that's when you're going to see him start to shift his policies to being a lot less public persecution. And so this is the one and only Nazi pogrom that we're going to see, the one and only Nazi attack on Jewish people that is so public. But notice, again, many people in Germany didn't see a problem with this. They felt that it was revenge for the killing of one of their diplomats. And so it shows you that anti-Semitism is not unusual in Europe and not something that is socially unacceptable. You see by it spreading into Vienna that that is the case. So this is the beginning of Hitler's persecution, and what you're going to see then from this is that he is going to shift how he's going to go after the Jewish people. And with that, we'll leave it for today, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.